Hello and welcome to Fiction Hack. My name is Ross Lawhead, and with me my co-host is...
Colin Monroe. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and today we're talking about Star Trek. Because you're keen to do a Star Trek episode.
I am.
Okay, so how are we going to discuss Star Trek since it's a pretty big topic?
Yeah, it's a massive topic. I don't really know. I mean, I was a huge fan of Star Trek as a teenager, kind of in the mid-90s, which I think I was just looking at some of the dates of when the various seasons were in production. And mid-90s was obviously the golden age for Star Trek.
Well, because that was Next Generation, right?
Well, yeah, that was Next Generation, which I think far exceeded the original series in many ways. But then also the spin-offs came along at that time, and they
it was
really...
certainly more successful than the original series. Because were there 2 or 3 seasons of the original series? I think there's three.
There was 3 seasons of the original series, 7 of Next Generation.
Did you ever see any of the cartoon of the original series?
No.
It was like basically just kind of. I think they got some of the original actors doing the voices, maybe not Shatner. But it was just like that kind of style of animation where it would just be a face and then just the lips would move. And then it would cut to like the next face and just the lips would move. And there was almost no action to it. But yeah, I don't know if that's canon or not. Well, yeah. Tweet or email in if that's canon or not. But so I agree. So what, there were 7 seasons of Next Generation?
Yep.
I remember watching the first episode and then moving to England almost immediately afterwards, so I couldn't see any more. And then, bizarrely, we were on a family vacation in America when the last episodes aired. And those were fantastic. The whole sort of... Because I was huge into the whole kind of...
so you never saw it in the UK?
Time travel
You never
thing.
saw it when you were living here in the UK?
No, I did, but it wasn't, like, consistent, like...
It wasn't on as much. I
did.
remember visiting the US because my parents lived there for a while, and it was on a lot of the time. And in the US, you always had a lot more channels, and stuff would repeat a lot more.
Well, because it was syndicated, but in Britain, they just show the episode once, and then unless they replayed the entire season, you wouldn't be able to see it again.
Yeah.
But because of that, I remember watching the first, the Next Generation... No, sorry. I remember watching the original series like religiously when it showed on Wednesdays, I think it was, and like before Thunderbirds or after Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
We'd watch those together, that was a good time. But
Thunderbirds.
Yeah. Okay. So no, I agree.
We should do an episode on Thunderbirds.
We should do an episode on Thunderbirds.
That was such a good show.
I watched all of them except for one, I think, because we're
and there is a link.
Holiday
There is
somewhere.
a link between Thunderbirds. You know what the link is? And Star Trek.
No, what's the link?
Jonathan Frakes, who played Riker, directed the live-action movie of Thunderbirds.
And there's a link to this show as well, because you worked on that movie.
Yeah, I did work on that movie, and the visual effects. So I met Jonathan Frakes a few times. He's a very nice guy.
We have got to do a Thunderbirds episode in that case.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah.
We're committed.
We can talk about that.
Getting us back on track. So I agree, 90s were the golden age for... Star Trek fans, just because it was popular enough that it was kind of like a crossover appeal to anyone. So you didn't have to be into science fiction in order to enjoy Star Trek. It kind of carried along, it had a sort of primetime appeal. But then, so after Generations finished, how soon was Deep Space Nine and Voyager, which were the next 2?
Okay, so this is what I was looking into. So Deep Space Nine and Next Generation overlapped by a couple of years.
I knew there were character overlaps. I didn't know if there were like...
Yeah, well, you see, they knew they were going to do Deep Space Nine, I think, round season 4. So once they were doing season 4 of Next Generation, and they were putting in things that were going to be relevant to Deep Space Nine to sort of set Deep Space Nine up without giving too much away, kind of thing. So the whole character of O'Brien, he did a
Cole
season.
Meany.
Yeah. Yep, he did a season on Star Trek Next Generation as the transporter guy, but then he went off and became chief engineer on Deep Space Nine. They also introduced the character of Ensign Ro. Ensign Ro was originally going to be the Kira character, but then the actress decided she didn't want to do it, so they changed it a bit. And what else was there? No, I think that was it really. But then, and in the first episode of DS9, it was the Enterprise that was bringing Commander Sisko to Deep Space Nine, and so I think Patrick Stewart cameoed in the first.
So I've only
episode.
seen like 2 episodes of Deep Space Nine, but didn't Worf come up in later seasons?
Yeah, well, so Next Generation overlapped for like 2 or 3 years, I think. So yeah, Next Generation was 87 to 94. Deep Space Nine started in 93, so it overlapped 1 year. I thought it was 95. Anyway, so yeah, Deep Space Nine overlapped for one year, and then when Next Gen ended, Worf joined. Well, it might have not been straight away. There might have been a season in between, but then yeah, Worf joined, and people say that was when Deep Space Nine got really good.
Really good.
Or interestingly, we did an episode on jumping the shark.
Yeah,
I found out since that the opposite of jumping the shark is called growing. It's called growing the beard.
Ah,
did you know that?
Okay. No, I didn't.
Do you know why it's called growing the beard?
I'm assuming you're going to tell me it's Deep Space Nine.
It's not Deep Space Nine, but it is Star Trek. It's Star Trek Next Generation. You remember Riker didn't originally have a beard in this first 2 seasons?
Yes. Yeah,
it was only in season 3 when he grew his beard. That was when Next Generation found its feet and grew the beard. So that's when it got good. And Nice. So yeah, growing the beard is the opposite of jumping the shark. And interestingly, you're right though. In Deep Space Nine, Sisko does grow a beard in season 4. When Worf joins, which is also the season everyone says is when it got good. So maybe there is something about beards.
Yeah. Okay. So now, I was never a huge fan of Deep Space Nine. I think because I really liked the exploration, unexpected side of Star Trek, that they would just go to a new place and encounter something new. So I really got into Voyager when that came out, and that would have gone. That was concurrent with Deep Space Nine as well, right?
Yeah,
Am I remembering that right?
That started pretty much when Next Generation was cancelled. So Voyager was 95 to 2001.
So Voyager they investigate some sort of wormhole that shoots them clear across the universe, and they're trying to find their way back home. So it's a complete kind of fish out of water kind of experience. In each episode, you don't know how much further they're going to get back or what they're going to encounter and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they've gone so far away that every alien race they encounter is going to be something completely new. So it gave the writers a lot more freedom. They didn't have to... But it's
still kind of a box as well, because you can't then feed in... for instance, you can't have a crossover with Deep Space Nine. Yeah. And,
although
or
they
any
did
of the other
find
series.
ways to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, didn't Deep Space Nine have an episode where they crossed over with the original?
Yeah, well, they
series?
both did. In the 30-year anniversary year or something, they both series did some sort of a episode in celebration episode.
Yeah. So with Deep Space Nine, it was Tribbles, right?
Yeah, the Deep Space Nine one was really good. I can't really
Tribbles.
remember what they did in the Voyager one.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I mean, have you seen any of the other sort of science fiction TV shows that took place in a space base, like Babylon 5 or Battlestar Galactica? How does it stack up to shows like that, do you think?
I'm not a good person to ask, because I was such a Star Trek fan that I didn't really get into any other series. I mean, I saw Deep Space... I saw Battlestar Galactica a little bit, but I never really got into any of the series because I was sort of loyal to Star Trek.
Yeah, that was what it was like back then as well. You had to kind of choose what kind of nerd you were.
But then Battlestar Galactica was much later.
It was much, much later, yeah.
So
I was just trying to think of what other ones were on space base.
Well, you know what? Because of the success of Next Generation, there were several copycats of that. So Babylon 5 was one of them. There was another one that was under the sea. Sequest DSV. Do you remember that?
DSV, yeah.
That was. I never got into that, but I'd always watch it when it was on, and it was quite good. It had talking dolphins and stuff. And what else was there? There was Stargate. That was kind of.
Oh yeah.
It was very different, but it was around the same time, and I think possibly Star Trek: The Next Generation opened the door to that sort of show.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any?
I mean,
others?
it's easier to make if it's on a space station because you've got the same sets, you've got the same actors. I think the way,
or a ship, or
yeah, because otherwise you've got the problem which they had with, it's become a cliche with the original series and even a little bit with Next Generation, is that any planet they go down to is like some sort of desert, rocky kind of landscape deal. In the same way that every place that Doctor Who goes to looks kind of like a quarry in Suffolk. That, every place that they go to in Star Trek kind of looks a little bit like Arizona in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, there are. If you were into Star Trek as much as me, you would recognize props that and even shots, like establishing shots that were like done by graphic artists to sort of say, oh, here's a planet that they actually reused. I remember. A couple of lamps. I was thinking, I remember seeing that in a previous episode and stuff like that. And also the set of the 10 Forward, which is like the bar set in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh yeah.
They used the same set in the movie Star Trek Generations, but as a building on Earth. And they just, instead of it being black black stars out in out the windows, it was like plants and stuff.
Right.
So watch out for that when you next watch the movies.
The one that always makes me laugh, and they've used it in Firefly, and they've used it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., is as like cryopods, futuristic cryopods. They're just those luggage compartments that you fit on top of your van or something. They're kind of Airstream kind of stuff. So they look vaguely futuristic, but they're always sticking a person in it and then clamping it down, and it always wobbles a little bit because they're just made out of plastic. But yeah. Anyway, that's... once you notice that, you can't stop seeing it. Basically, there's just one episode of Firefly where they're pushing those things all over this planet, and it's like it's just a luggage carrier. Anyway,
it's cool though. I mean, it makes you think. The creativity that goes into that sort of thing. And
well, I mean, Team America World Police is the one that's,
I was going to say that
for like little bits that have been repurposed for something
like
else, and I guess Thunderbirds as well to a great degree. But okay, so now after Voyager, I kind of gave up. I think in the middle of Voyager, I gave up.
I'm the same, and this is why I kind of missed the end of Deep Space Nine, and I really want to actually get back into it and give DS9 another go, because I mean, when Deep Space Nine got good, I just sort of stopped watching for other reasons. I want to give.
And this is the difficulty of watching TV shows in Britain before there was streaming, is that if you missed it, then it was just gone.
Well, you know what? Back then we had Blockbuster Video, and they had all the shows, and I used to go down there.
I mean, if you had a big Blockbuster, not if you had a small one in Rose Hill, but...
Yeah, no, we had a huge one where I lived.
All right, but so Voyager finished, but then they did a few movies of the Next Generation. They stopped making the original series movies, and then they did Star Trek Generations, which I enjoyed. It doesn't hold up as well anymore, but Malcolm McDowell is still pretty good, and Whoopi Goldberg's in it.
And then she's been in the series for a long time as well. So
she was great. Off and on, she really is a big fan of the show.
Yeah, she was just a really big fan, and she said, "Hey, I want to be in it. Write me a part," and they did. So
and a good part as well. She always added something really good whenever she was in it.
Yeah.
So, but then it kind of went on a little bit, and I actually read some of the books and novelizations and stuff because those are usually pretty well written. And then how long was it until we got Star Trek, the next one?
Enterprise.
That
was 2001. So that was the year after Voyager ended. Which is actually quite sooner than I thought. I have to confess I never watched Enterprise. It wasn't because I didn't want to, didn't like it. I just never, it was back then. I mean, that's a long time ago. It's just before you had to be there when it was on, and by then I was at university, and it just didn't work with my schedule. So,
but it had Quantum Leap in it, and it took place before the original series because it was okay. So can you look up? Did Scott Bakula play the guy who James Cromwell played in
movie?
In the movie,
No,
Yeah,
no,
what's the
no.
character? What's the character of Scott Bakula's character?
Well, he's just the captain of.
Yeah, but what's his name? What's his?
Jonathan Archer.
All right, that's not him.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
No,
but he's the first commander of the Enterprise. Is that right? Of the first
Well,
Enterprise.
he's the commander of the first Enterprise because there were
The
lots of different
1701A. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Or maybe without the A.
Yeah, no, I think it is A because then in Next Generation it's D.
Mm-hmm. And then it goes to E sometime in the, I think in the movies, because they crashed the saucer at the end of Generations, and it goes to E after that.
Yeah, so I think they've got a new one in.
Okay, so that's
First
way
Contact.
back there, and then you've been watching Star Trek Discovery, which has just wrapped up its first season and it's about to start.
Yeah,
filming the second one.
so Discovery is set in between, I guess. It's the first season of spoiler alert here. The first season of Discovery ends around the time that the first season of the original series begins, and it ends up with them actually rendezvousing with the Enterprise. But it's before the original series started, so Kirk wasn't actually around at that point. It was the captain of the Enterprise then was a guy called Christopher Pike.
Yeah, who was in the first episode of Star Trek.
He was in the pilot.
That
was then not broadcast, so it's not really canon. And you can still get it. You can buy it on. I used to have it on VHS.
Well, they air it as well. Like I remember seeing it in Britain when they reran the original series.
It's
so I assumed
interesting
it was
because
just the
the
first
whole
episode.
character of Spock is very different. He looks the same, but he's different. Like he doesn't have the whole emotionless Vulcan thing. He has emotions. It's funny. It's funny to watch. But yeah, Kirk isn't in it at all. They had a different character, and then they decided. But so I think Christopher Pike was a bit too straight, a bit too by the rules.
They want someone a little bit,
and they decided they wanted someone a bit more of a bit
loosey-goosey
potential to go rogue. A bit more, a bit more loosey-goosey. And then they made the Spock character the straight guy.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, there's basically a whole ship of straight guys because Bones was a straight guy. Even Scotty was to an extent.
Yeah,
he had a little bit more color than some of the other characters. But
so the whole show was like him wanting to do crazy stuff, and everyone saying, "No, you can't do that."
Well, maybe we can talk about this when we discuss the movies in a second. But okay, so my question that I want to bring this all back to is so we've talked about the history a little bit, but what was it about Star Trek that made people so loyal to it, even to the extent of saying, "Well, you have to be a Star Trek fan." Or a Star Wars fan, you can't.
Well, you touched on what it was for you a minute ago. You said it was you really liked how they could, visit different cultures and things. Mm-hmm. Is that right? I'm not putting words in your mouth.
No, yeah, that's for sure. That's one of the reasons.
Well, I can tell you what it is for me, or what it was for me, and I was like hardcore Trekkie. Mm-hmm. For me, it was the structure and the hope of a better future, right. And but I mean I really like the idea of there being this kind of huge ship that's containing almost like a whole civilization, a completely man-made thing in space. It wasn't, but it wasn't even so much that it could travel around. It was just that it was in space. So for me, I guess that's maybe why I still like Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even just like, I mean, the characters are good as well, and the plots are intelligent, but it's kind of the ethos and philosophy of the show of kind of, it's not even just mankind, but it's like all people's coming together for something greater than themselves. Yeah. I mean, I phrase it like that because I think they've been pretty upfront about that being an element in it, because Gene Roddenberry was the great humanist kind of entertainer.
Yeah. I mean, the show has always been, ever since the beginning, the original series, and I think because of Gene Roddenberry, it's always been very like progressive. It had the first interracial kiss, on-screen television kiss, and Star Trek, the original series, even in the episodes they were still doing in the 80s, was tackling homosexuality and things like that. I think I may have even had the first homosexual kiss in Deep Space Nine on TV. So yeah, it's always had that as part of its culture. But I think, like, originally that was just because that was who Gene Roddenberry was. Now I feel like they do it for the sake of it, because that's what Star Trek is meant to be in inverted commas.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it feels a bit forced now, I think.
Probably because there are other shows that do that as well.
Yeah,
and there's not kind of something as much of an event when it happens on Star Trek, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, it seems as though when you watch Discovery, it seems as though, like, when you see like a scene in the canteen, it seems as though every table in the background's got some sort of homosexual couple on the back, sitting at it, you know. So yeah, it just feels a bit forced.
Yeah. Doctor Who got like that as well.
But then again, I think Doctor Who was genuine because Russell T Davies is gay, and you know, so he brought that. You know, I think it doesn't feel so
he brought an authority to it, for sure. Yeah. Cool. Well, did you want to talk about the rebooted movies as well? I mean, with the like original series movies, the thing that they always point out is that all of the odd number movies are pretty naff, but the even ones aren't bad.
And it's totally true as well. Like Generations was an even number one. It was all right, okay.
I mean, the Star Trek the Motion Picture was basically
terrible.
Yeah. I mean, it was just it was basically basic, I think, was what it was. It's like, you know, none of the characters really did anything. It was kind of like, if you haven't seen the TV show, well, here it is.
What you've got to remember, though, is this is the first time a lot of people had seen the Enterprise on the big screen. Yeah. You know, and so there's a lot of like, so in that scene where you first see the Enterprise, it's like really long and nothing actually happens. It's just like, here's the Enterprise, and there's big long shots of it moving around, and what they were trying to do is they were copying 2001. Because in 2001 was a lot like that. Not a lot happened. It was just long scenes of the spaceship, and you know, they were influenced a lot by that. But then 2 was Wrath of Khan. That was good, just because it was
it pushed the characters to a really extreme point.
And I think a lot of people liked the way it referenced one of the episodes.
Yeah, but then again, you didn't have to see the episodes, obviously, and I don't even remember the episode because I would have seen it, and then I saw Wrath of Khan much later on TV, which probably isn't the best way to see it. Have you got a list there? What's the third one?
Yeah, I don't have a list.
Oh wait, Search for Spock. It has to be because because of spoilers.
Well, because he dies in spoiler alert.
That was the spoiler. That was what I talked about earlier.
Sorry.
That's why they're searching for him.
Exactly. Because he dies.
They
at the
blow
end
him out of a
episode
torpedo tube, and then they decide he may not be dead yet. So
because there's that great scene. There's that great scene of like his death scene is like really great. You know, you have been and always shall be my friend. You know what I mean? And then I like the way that we'll talk about the reboots. Yeah, we'll talk about the reboots when we talk about it. Don't say it yet.
Okay, but what's number 4 then? Is that
Undiscovered 4 the one where they went back in time and saved the whales?
Maybe.
Or was that 5?
That may be 5. Okay, get your list up. So I remember Undiscovered Country being enjoying that one.
6,
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Okay, that was 6. Okay. So that had all the Klingons in it.
The Voyage
number
Home.
5. Okay, go on.
Voyage Home was number 4. That was the one where they save the whales.
No, it's not. It can't be.
Yeah,
that had to be.
It was a good one. It was a good, even though
it was a good one.
I think that's the one that doesn't quite follow.
Okay.
The thing. So it was good though. It just wasn't very Star Trek-y.
Right. Okay.
Because a lot of it was set in modern day.
It seems quite preachy. I mean, I watched this when I was quite young. I think I saw it on TV when I was in America, like at 9 years old or something. I remember, Spock had to have some sort of like headband thing because
they were walking around present day San Francisco. And the whole point was they'd come back in time. Yeah, because in the future,
I know what happened in the movie, Colin. But
okay. Well, I'm telling the audience. Remember, it's not just you and me, Ross. We've got millions of people listening to us.
No, I know.
So the story was a bit stupid, but it was a kind of comedy episode.
Did they play it for laughs, or was it kind of unintentional? Okay.
No.
I thought it was a bit unintentional, but maybe I wasn't just picking up on some of that. the subtlety.
Yeah, they were playing it for laughs.
Okay,
and
so that was
so it was
4.
okay with that in mind, but it wasn't very Star Trek, but yeah. And then the 5th one was called The Final Frontier, and that is one that I just have no memory of.
I don't know anything about that one. Like, who's in it? Who's the bad guy?
Oh, it's directed by William Shatner. Well, I've got like the plot on Wikipedia right in front of me, but it doesn't ring any bells.
Okay, we'll read the plot on Wikipedia. Let's try to figure this out.
Okay, the crew of the newly commissioned USS Enterprise, NCC 1701A, are enjoying shore leave after the ship's shakedown cruise goes poorly. So Kirk is not on the ship anymore. He's not the captain. He's been demoted because of what he did in the previous movies, and he's gone on a camping trip with Spock and Dr. McCoy.
That's got David Warner in it.
Interrupted. The leaves interrupted were by Starfleet Command to rescue human, Klingon, and Romulan hostages on the planet Nimbus 3. Learning of the Enterprise's mission, the Klingon captain decides to pursue Kirk for personal glory.
Okay, it's got God in it. I think this is starting to come back to me now.
It's got God in it.
Is this the one with Viger?
No, that was the first one.
That was the first one? Okay.
That was the whole point of the first one. They found Voyager, the Voyager. Oh, spoiler alert. Which is really stupid because, the original Voyager probe. I think even now actually it's just left our solar system. But
nerd.
It's like light years away to the next solar system, so it won't even have got like 1% away from our solar system to another one by the time Star Trek is actually set. So the idea that it would have gone away and discovered loads of other things and then come back is ridiculous. But anyway,
we spent too much time on that one now. Okay, so then it was Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country. That was number 6, and that was good because it had Klingons in it doing Klingon-y stuff, and
it had Christopher Lloyd, Dr. Brown from Back to the Future, as one of the Klingons. I think he was in that one. Yep,
that can't be right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He definitely played a Klingon. I'm pretty sure it was Star Trek 6.
All right, you say so. Had Christopher Plummer in it. Okay, so that one was good, and then we had Star Trek Generations, and this was
1994.
Yeah, 7.
So 7 was.
And
an
I
odd
enjoyed
number.
that one, but is that like a bad one, or what would you say? Like that was the crossover movie. It was kind of vanilla, I guess. But
it was a bad one.
It was a bad
because
one?
when you think about what it's sandwiched between 6, which was really good.
Yeah.
Because of the war with the Klingons, and the next one was First Contact, which was with the Borg, which was really really good.
I don't know. I like the Borg. I don't remember liking First Contact so much or as much as Generations. I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know.
Maybe you
I
just like the tie-in. Maybe you just. Really
I just like the tie-in. I think that's it. I just like seeing Kirk and Picard working together.
Yeah, I mean, that was cool, but when you think about it in hindsight, the way that they did it with the whole Nexus thing was really naff.
I don't know. I just like for me that's what is so fun about Star Wars. Star Trek is the time meddling ones, but that's okay. That's cool. We can all have our own likes and dislikes. Yeah. So Star Trek First Contact, and is that the one where Data learns how to laugh?
No. That's Generations. I think. I'm pretty sure it's Generations he gets to do that.
Okay. No, you're right.
But he can switch. I think he can still switch it on and off because he's not very good at coping with it.
And then there's Nemesis.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Again, very forgettable. Can't even remember what happened in that.
Oh no! Wait, Insurrection. When's
Insurrection? Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, Insurrection was very forgettable. Nemesis was a good one. It had Tom Hardy played the clone of Picard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? I may not have seen this one. This is not looking familiar at all.
Really?
That's
I mean, it's good, but it's not that good. Okay. It's better. It's just a lot better than
and so is that the last one before the reboot?
It was, yeah.
Okay. So what are your feelings on the reboot?
Well, I've only seen the first 2. I haven't seen the third one yet. Okay. And I mean, I quite liked it. I mean, I'm not so. I did like the way that they reference the original ones, and this is what I was going to say when we were talking about Wrath of Khan and the whole really famous death scene. I really liked how that they reversed that, so they still had that scene in, but it was with the roles reversed. So, and there was a lot of moments like that were sort of.
So it was spoiler alert. It was Kirk who died, and then you got to see Spock getting really emotional.
Yeah,
which was good and a little bit unexpected, but it made sense for the character and the story at that point. But then they discover like super blood, and it doesn't really. It kind of falls apart a little bit.
Yeah,
because they bring it back with super blood.
Yeah, it was Khan's blood, wasn't it? It could heal everyone.
Or was it? No, wait. Was it? It was Tribbles. Yeah. I think it was Tribbles.
No, it wasn't. It was Khan.
Sure
that was the whole point. That was the whole reason why Khan was able to get the guy at the beginning.
Oh no! Okay, you're right. Okay, so but we got to see Bones inject Khan's blood into a Tribble as a way to see what the effects would be, and then the Tribble survives, and then he realizes that he can do it on Spock. Right. The inference being that then the Tribbles go on to replicate and do everything. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how it all shook out. Okay, so my feelings on the reboot were that it was pretty unnecessary. I didn't know why they were doing it, really. I mean, of course, it's for money and viewers and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't like what they did with the character of Kirk, which was make him kind of super reckless and without any kind of need to answer to authority or anything, because he basically just kind of sneaks onto the ship essentially, and he's this kind of rebel who didn't even go through the full kind of Starfleet Academy kind of deal, and then Pike just kind of makes him the captain because he's got a gut feeling. I thought that was a bit
ridiculous. Yeah,
it's a bit silly. And I thought it wasn't the only silly part. You know, remember the bit with the big hands?
Can you imagine that now? Can you imagine being a stowaway on a military gunboat in the Navy?
Exactly.
And then just the captain likes you, so he makes you the next captain? It would be totally ridiculous.
I mean, he didn't earn it. That's what I kind of missed. Yeah. And I think there was a kind of popular novelization about by Richard Greaves. I'll put it in my show notes. Which had more about kind of Kirk's life in the Academy, and it had the Kobayashi Maru situation, which may have been referenced previously, but I think that was the first time I actually kind of saw what that was. Garfield Steven, I think that was it. And
it's definitely.
So I was on board with all of that, and I didn't see the logic in kind of making Kirk the captain of the Enterprise, except that that's what had to happen for the franchise. But then we had number 2, which had some nice parts, as we've just talked about. But then again, it just was a retreading of the second movie, The Wrath of Khan.
But in an alternate universe where things have all got slightly different. And actually, it wasn't a retreading of the original movie. It was a retreading of the original series episode that featured Khan.
Really? Okay, I didn't know.
Because it wasn't him. It wasn't Khan coming back for revenge. It was them actually finding Khan, or maybe it was both. I guess.
Okay.
Because it was.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't remember much from the TV episode, although I must have seen it. It must not have just been kind of stand out enough. But then the third one, people all agree is probably the best one.
That's the one I haven't seen yet. So
yeah, so Star Trek Beyond, and I think that does a little bit better in just kind of growing the universe a little bit. And you kind of see that Kirk has stepped up. He is responsible. So they've basically made him just, by the way, into the character that he was in the TV series, which, again, it makes me conflicted about the rebooted first movie, because it's like, well, why go through all of that if he's just going to end up as the same character really anyway? I don't know what the character purpose is for that.
So what would you want then? What do you think it would have been better to just carry on with William Shatner being really old and still a captain, or do you think they should have introduced a new young captain?
I think you can do this. I think for as much as I like kind of the alternate universe and time travel things, I think you just remove that element from it. Just say, everybody, we're starting Star Trek over again, and this is it. It's like, this is Chris Pine, because we haven't really seen Kirk come through the Academy before in any of the movies or TV shows, and that would have been something new for the series. And so and then you can have him, fighting Romulans from the future and all that kind of stuff. I think that's fine, but I don't think you need to interrupt the timeline. I don't think you need to have Leonard Nimoy in it again, except that he needs to be in all of them, apparently.
Well, not anymore. He's
not anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't. All of that seemed a little bit forced and to very little effect, I think, because now it's good. Like I said, they've made Kirk the way he was in the TV show, and it works great. You've got a more responsible Kirk who's still got this kind of unbuttoned side of him that will just throw something random into the mix. Even then, I think the bad guy was still kind of weak and there's it was another kind of bad guy, the logical disconnect of he basically worships chaos and just wants disorder, and he's against the Federation because of that, but he's got this super disciplined, ultra controlled force at his disposal, which completely works against his ideology and ethos. But again, it's Luther from the TV show Luther, so he's pretty good. Okay,
cool. I'm gonna have to watch that one. They are making another one, and I've heard that Patrick Stewart signed up. Maybe. Right. I haven't heard that through any official. I've just heard it. Somebody I know said that apparently Patrick Stewart is signed up to do another Star Trek movie. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they'll de-age him or something, and he can provide the voice to his computer-generated self. That'd be kind of interesting.
You know what? I always thought it would be cool to do a sort of Starfleet Academy series. And they did sort of, because they touched on Starfleet Academy a couple of times with the whole in the Next Generation with Wesley Crusher. Well, and then there was an episode where he was like a pilot in doing some sort of display team, and they had an accident and some people had got killed, and he was in lots of trouble. And one of the actors who was one of the other people. Yeah, one of the actors who was one of the other people that was in trouble was the guy that ended up on Voyager, who was like the pilot guy, Tom Paris. Yeah, so the Tom Paris character, you remember?
Oh yeah,
the like pilot guy. Yeah. So he was, although not officially, like he had a different name and everything, but he was kind of inspired by one of the other guys who was with Wesley Crusher, who was at the academy, but then got kicked out. And then went a bit rogue, did some bad things. And he was then in prison when they kind of got him out because they needed somebody to kind of infiltrate the Maquis terrorist group or something at the beginning of Voyager.
I think you could even run it back a little bit, and because you've got all of these captains from Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager kind of overlapping, it would be kind of interesting. Maybe Picard isn't there, but maybe he's not on the Enterprise yet. He hasn't been assigned. He's maybe doing some consulting stuff. But Sisko is there, and Janeway is there, and maybe some of the other people. Maybe Sulu's around because he got to be a captain when Kirk retired, and so maybe he comes in as Admiral Sulu and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd totally watch a Starfleet TV series. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So if they
let's do it. Let's make this happen.
If they do that, they need to pay us royalties.
So we'll get a Kickstarter page going. We'll get everyone to donate, and we'll buy the rights, and we'll make it work.
Yeah, speaking of which, they've done that. There was a fan funded series or movie or something.
You're kidding. I've got to see this. What is it called?
I don't know, but it was, I can't remember. I've never watched it, but it was, it looked pretty good. Considering it was.
We'll find out. And we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put links and stuff in the show notes. That sounds awesome. I love fan-made stuff.
Because you can tell when something's made out of love, and not out of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Star Wars is a good example of that because, like, the new Star Wars movies are just done to expand, keep the franchise going.
Yeah.
Whereas before that, the people writing the novels and the comic books and all that kind of stuff, they were essentially movies, fans doing the fan, just expanding the universe and stuff.
Did you ever see the one that was like?
I promised I wasn't going to mention Star Wars ever again on this podcast, but that's just the best example.
Inevitably, you did, and like I said, you're going to. I know you're going to.
I'm not going to. Fine. I swear, this is going to be the last time.
I think you are, and I think you should. But did you see the fan movie that was like from the point of view of the stormtroopers during the first movie?
Was it the one that's like the send up of cops?
Yeah,
it's called Troops.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really good. That was one of the first ones.
The guy who did that went on. They hired him to do a few comics. I think it's Kevin Rubio, because it was they're like shaking down Jawas for information and stuff. It was like, is it who'd you get this from? Is this your cousin right here?
Yeah.
No, I really like that a lot. Yeah. So anyway. I mean, all that stuff is great, but anything that's like creator owned anymore in Star Wars is just awful. It just makes me want to bash my brains out. But anything that's fun and fanny, that they actually kind of love the properties that they've grown up with.
Fun and fanny.
Yeah, it's a word, right? Maybe I'm not using that word right.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but that's it's another word. Anyway,
okay, so we gotta find that TV series. Okay, so if we're gonna wrap this up, what are we gonna say about Star Trek? Watch it, live it, experience it. Do you think that the Next Generation holds up?
You mean watching it now?
Yeah.
Well, the Next Generation is interesting because the first like 2 or 3 seasons when Gene Roddenberry was alive and he was the showrunner, have they've dated a lot more. They are a lot more, like, you can see all the girls are in like really short skirts and things. So although he was very progressive in some ways, he was also not very progressive in other ways. Right. And it did change a lot. And so I think from season 3 onwards, it holds up a lot better than it did in season 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think it holds up. I watched some a year or two ago when I was packing up to move house, and I was kind of impressed. You do have to make certain allowances, but the look of it is still so unique, I think, and no one else really tried to go for that with the. Well, except Apple really went for it with their kind of
I was going to say there's so many things in technology that have that look like things that were in Star Trek. They're not transporters yet.
And what's the thing as well? I was going to say it's not necessarily a good thing, but they've used the form well. We were talking about episodic shows rather than overarching shows when we were doing our mystery box episode, and Star Trek is very much an anthology series. The only thing that really carries over is what characters are in what position, basically, what their station is on the Enterprise. Because otherwise, you can watch pretty much any episode independently of the other ones.
Yeah, apart from they did a couple of two-parters.
Apart from a couple of two-parters.
But they were always cliffhangers at the end of a season when they knew they were coming back for another season.
Yeah, or the season cap in the case of the last episode. But anyway, that's to say that a good way to watch it, if any listener has not seen the Next Generation and want to see what all the fuss is about, just go online and find like the 10 best episodes of Star Trek Next Generation, and you can just watch them all like that. So you don't have to even watch them in sequence. That's a good way to kind of, and even if you just want to kind of refresh your memory about what the series was, I'd say do that.
Yeah. But do you have a personal favorite? Do you remember one?
I do have a personal favorite. I'm trying to remember which one it was because I couldn't.
I've got a personal favorite. Tell me if it's the same one. Is it the one where this orb ball comes onto the bridge and sticks to Picard's head, and then Picard like falls over and he's like passed out, and in a 20-minute period he lives an entire life of this alien character.
Oh, right.
And it was that race's way of like sharing their culture with another race, and he wakes up and he has the memory of living as this alien through his whole life, and he even like learned to play this flute thing. That was one of my favorites. Anyway,
so that's kind of what's that short story? It's quite famous. The Oxbow Lake Incident. Is that it? It's a spoiler alert for this short story. I may or may not have got the name right of. It'll be in the show notes. But yeah, this prisoner of war in the American Civil War, I think he's a deserter or something, is going to be hung or hanged. And just as he's being hung or hanged, he has a vision of himself escaping, running away, and living a life, and then dying of old age. But then at the end of the story, like his neck snaps, and it was all just kind of a fiction that he had in his mind of the last second of his life. Anyway, okay, so I'll look up. Okay, let's find that one. I want to. The one that I am trying to track down is with, and I don't know how much of this my mind is embroidered, but it's with Riker, and he's putting on a play or something, and he keeps waking up, and you don't know what's real and what's not real. It's kind of a mind bender one. That's the only thing I can remember, except at the end he wakes up for real, and it's aliens doing experiments on him. Unless I've got that wrong. But so, would you recommend Star Trek Discovery?
So, would I recommend Star Trek? Yes and no. So it's not as good as Star Trek. Well, it's only done a season, so it hasn't really had a chance to grow the beard.
Hasn't grown its beard yet. Exactly.
Yeah.
Callback.
It was okay. Yeah, it was quite good. I would recommend, if you're going to start it, watch it all the way to the end, because about 2/3 of the way through, there's a kind of big twist which is interesting. It's good. It's worth watching if you haven't got.
If it's the kind of thing you like, it's the kind of thing you'll like.
Exactly.
Okay. With that sterling recommendation that everyone must go out and watch Star Trek Discovery right away. What else are you looking at these days?
So I recently watched the Westworld, the original movie that Westworld TV show is based on. It was actually, I think it's actually directed by Michael Crichton, who wrote the novel.
It was, yeah. He wrote it. He wrote and directed it.
Because I was actually looking for Westworld on the TV show because I wanted to start watching that, and I thought I'd found it, but it was actually the actual original movie on Amazon Prime, and it wasn't very good.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it. No,
because it's a classic. That's the whole reason why the TV show got made.
I don't think it is. I think the reason the TV show got made is because it was a really good idea in the book.
But it's also famously in the book. The same idea that he used for Jurassic Park.
Except that very similar.
The robots are dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That's a shame. So I guess it doesn't age very well. But no, I have memories of watching that movie and enjoying it.
There's so much. It's very slow. Not a lot actually happens. You can narrow you can summarize the plot in 5-10 points.
Well, like Jurassic Park as well.
Yeah, but Jurassic Park, there's a lot more action in this.
Yeah.
There's but you're right, it is a classic. And actually I read that there's this one cowboy character who's just determined to kill the main guy. And the way that he did that inspired a lot of other famous characters from other movies, like in Terminator. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger, or maybe it was Terminator 2 with the
it would have been Terminator 2 with Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick.
T-2000 or whatever.
Yeah, so that was...
I didn't put that together, but yeah, you're right. That makes perfect sense. You can draw a line between
so you've seen it too?
Seen what?
The movie?
Terminator 2?
No, but the original...
Yeah. Like I said, okay. I've seen it. Yeah, I have.
So do you know what I mean? Not a lot actually happens.
Well, I mean, like I said, in the same way that not a lot happens in Jurassic Park, but it's a science fiction movie in that it has a point of view that it's trying to get across about technology and entertainment and how some of this stuff can kind of be quite dangerous to you, which isn't a hugely sophisticated.
There's action and there's the characters and you really care about the characters and you don't want them to get killed. It's a bit, and there's a lot more dynamic. It's a lot more different things.
I think ultimately that comes down to the
one guy and he's running, and you don't really care that much about him.
Yeah, one of them was directed by Steven Spielberg, and the other one wasn't.
Yeah, one of them was directed by a filmmaker. One of them was directed by a novelist.
Which is true. Although Michael Crichton has directed a bunch of movies, and he's uncredited on some of them as well. Apparently, 13th Warrior, which again I liked a lot. A lot of it was directed by him because it was written by him as well, which is based on Beowulf. I mean, you don't have to have original ideas to be a novelist, and Michael Crichton often didn't. But what he did pretty well.
Oh yeah, he was
in terms of story development.
Yeah, but no, and I do really want to watch the TV series. The new.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that as well. It's just it's nothing that I'm subscribed to at the moment, so we'll have to wait to see it in some other.
I think they've done.
But did you ever see the original Magnificent Seven?
Did I what?
Did you ever see the original Magnificent Seven?
Did I ever see it? I thought you said, did you receive? I was thinking, did you send me something?
Did you receive that knowledge into your head by way of your eyes?
The original Magnificent Seven? No, I don't think I have.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great Western. But it's got the Yul Brynner, the bad robot guy in the original movie is the good cowboy in that movie. He's playing the head samurai part because it's a remake of Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven. Anyway, we could do episodes on those as well. But okay, so you watched the original Westworld, but you didn't like it very much. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I haven't got anything to recommend this week.
Okay.
Not really.
All right.
And what about you?
Ask me. So I have just gone back and picked up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again. So I mentioned that earlier. And I gave up in season 3 because it was just dragging on and I wasn't getting on with the characters and all that kind of stuff. And I was loyal to it because I'm a big Marvel fan. And but then I was like, this is just too much to keep up with everything else. Because, Daredevil was cool at that time and Jessica Jones. And I even liked Luke Cage. But anyway, I've been hearing that it gets so much better after season 3. So I started again at season 4. And now I've just finished season 5, and now I'm going to go back and watch it all again because it got so good in season 4 and 5.
It's worth watching the bad seasons.
I just want to experience it all together as a whole now. So, what is great about it is that they're using the kind of usual science fiction tropes. In season 4, for instance, they're like in something called the Framework, which is basically the Matrix. They're imprisoned in this alternate reality, but they do it so well that. They really, again, it's about pushing the characters into these kind of extreme situations and just testing their relationships to each other, which is what you need to do in an ensemble cast kind of show like that. And then that carries over into the next season really well. And then they're in the future on this kind of space base. Again, like Babylon 5 or Deep Space Nine. But again, they do it so well that it really feels like everything's got consequences and stuff that the characters are dealing with kind of long term from being in this framework thing. Like one guy develops kind of a schizophrenic personality, and instead of saying, well, boo-hoo, oh, that's really hard, that's really bad, the characters kind of say, well, let's use that because that seems like that's going to help us out right now. And then they thought the season 5 was going to be their last season, so the last few episodes they just leave it all out on the field. So they basically kind of say goodbye to some of the key characters, and it actually does get quite emotional, I feel. But then it ends in a really intelligent place as well. And I think it just on the back of that, it got picked up for another season, a half season, a 13-episode season for number 6. I think just on the strength of how well received that the last season was. So I would recommend that.
That's not going to be another one of those cases where they think it's ending, so they tie up all the characters' storylines, and then they do it so well they get recommissioned, and then they don't really know where to go.
I think it might be. I mean, time will tell. I've got faith in the writing team that they'll probably do something interesting with it. But it does feel like number 5, the last few episodes, number 5, is it for the series, which is not a bad thing. Not everything has to end on a cliffhanger. But yeah, so it gives you a sense of completion. But I would say anyone who gave up at any point, just start at number 4 because you don't need to have any kind of knowledge of what happened before.
What if you never watched any of it? Could you jump into season 4?
I think so. I think you'll pick it up. They've got recaps and stuff. So yeah,
cool.
Anyway. Anything else?
Yes. So, good news.
Okay.
Somebody is watching and responding using the hashtag fiction hack. Any comments on the show? Please let us know on Twitter what you're thinking. If you are listening, please let us know on Twitter with the hashtag fiction hack. Yep. Somebody has used it. It's my brother. So you mentioned last week about Columbo.
Yeah.
And he was saying
2 weeks ago.
Okay, a couple of weeks ago, about Columbo and how you always knew the audience always knew the end.
No, they knew who the murderer was at the beginning.
Right. Okay, yeah, who the murderer was at the beginning. But he was saying that, this is actually the same for me when I think back on it. It's one of those shows that you're flicking through the channels and it's on, but you've always always missed the beginning. Unless you go out of your way to watch it. So yeah, I never realised that was the case with Columbo as well. So that's an interesting observation. Keep them coming. Well,
wait, does that mean that you never knew who the murderer was when you watched it?
Yeah. I mean, but I never really watched it. Like, it
is one of those ones that you just fall on because Peter Falk is such a great actor that you just want to watch him no matter where you find him. But yeah, well, okay, I should have said as well, and I answered your brother with this also, that even though you knew who the murderer was at the beginning, you pretty much didn't know why they were killing this person, or stealing this object, or doing whatever they were doing. So there was a bit of there was a strong mystery element in that. And then a lot of it was just, again, seeing Peter Falk, be Columbo, and just the joy of watching that performance week after week, which is the appeal for me. But okay, so I've got a comment as well that was actually emailed to me, and this talks about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and one of my big gripes in it. And he says, this is from Steven, "You complain that Luke is miserable and alone in The Last Jedi, but when we see Obi-Wan and Yoda in the original series, they're alone and burnt out as well. So isn't that representation of Luke more consistent with the original trilogy?" Which I think is an interesting observation. But I kind of question how much Obi-Wan is burnt out when he's on Tatooine. Because I kind of feel like he was there to keep an eye on Luke and kind of steer him straight.
Yeah, he didn't seem that miserable. He certainly didn't seem that miserable, I think.
They're kind of more in hiding than... Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, Luke's in hiding as well. But with Obi-Wan, he is training Luke. He wants to kind of open Luke's perceptions up to you're taking your first step into a larger universe, which is very much what Luke is not doing for Rey in The Last Jedi. He wants to say the Force is dumb. You shouldn't be a Jedi because Jedi is stupid. Leave me alone. So I can drink my
when
milk. He
was supposed to be the New Hope, it just is inconsistent with that. The whole point of the Luke character is that he's supposed to represent hope.
Okay, good. Right? All right, we're agreed on that.
Okay.
I'm glad.
Well, you want to do Twitter quickly? Where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Ross Lawhead, all one. Also Instagram.
Okay, and I'm at Colin_Munro. And don't forget the hashtag FictionHack.
FictionHack. So
and you're doing your own version of the show notes on your site, which is rosslawhead.com.
Yep.
And I will eventually get around to doing my own version of the show notes on my site, which is colinmunro.me.uk.
Okay.
Let's leave it there and see you next time.
See you next time. Thanks for listening. Should have prepared this better.
It's okay.
This is fun. I think
when I edit this down, it will sound like we know exactly what we're talking about.
Good.
You're going to say, "What's his character called?" And I'm just going to know it.
Okay.
Hang on. Why is this not easier? Characters. Jonathan Archer.
Okay.